Hello, this is a very comfortable chair, that's why I'll stand up. Why are we here on the stage already? It's because this is our scene. We feel very comfortable here. We feel here on the stage more comfortable than in the audience, because all the exhibitions, starting from the one that was on the slides here, which is from Flo Kaseorg, the Asylum Festival in Theatre of No 99 exhibitions, and followed by an exhibition in Tallinn Art House called Cut Off from Life. Here you can see some details from the exhibition. There are themes like half-dead animals. Half-dead plants and other topics, and we'll share some name cards later where children's songs, lyrics have been used. We speak about violence against the women, but also about violence and its impact on children. And what if there's violence between parents and children suffer? And also the exhibition starts from a child and ends with a child. And it's very child-friendly. If you want, come always, I'll be waiting for you. These are different Estonian children's songs. It's lyrics. So this is part of the exhibition. And how has the exhibition been doing? The artist has been involved with us for 7 years, involved in children's camps, women's camps, and the women have felt secure with the artist. And if you don't know, Flo Kaseorg is actually my daughter. That's why she has good skills of approaching these women, and I think she'll almost be as good as a psychotherapist soon. There are 9 chairs in the exhibition. These aren't chairs, these are actually women and their stories. Here you can see a children's chair. It has a story. The most difficult is the legal chair. Then there's a bush and so on. And these are specific stories of women, but I won't be the one telling these stories here today. Why have we come up with this library? The method is that we should actually divide the audience into half. One side will read one book, the other book, but we'll not do it this way. We'll modify the system. The person who had the experience should tell the story, have this direct experience. This is what works. And it's a challenge for the person as well. We never send a person to the stage if she hasn't started to feel safe, if she hasn't been trained about how to perform, how to carry out this process, how we prepare a person for going on media, or coming out. There's specific work we do. We have AHA group that supports her, AHA. And it's not that we force the woman to speak out, or that we want to do all of it for vanity. It's for other reasons. And also another goal that we have is that the society will then understand better who is the one who is talking, who has the voice, and what is the message. Usually, we've left this live library to the end of the conference because people want to stay until the end of the day because they want to see the specific person who has experienced it. We started it in 2014, and we've been doing these live libraries since then across Estonia. We are in Tallinn for the second time. And in the autumn, we'll be in the Estonian town Rakvere. So what about these living libraries? We all want to read books, and it's great if we don't have to really read it, but if we can hear the book. Today we have 2 books on the stage. This book hopefully will also have some empty pages at the end, so we'll have time for questions. And will you start the book from the beginning or from the middle of the beginning? Will it be composed of small essays or differently? So the book will decide herself. This is it. I now announce the Living Library open. We have 2 books. Jaanika first. Everything you have heard before, but now we will hear what the story really was. And Jaanika can begin now. While sitting on this bush chair, I'll be speaking. We set Margo on the legal chair because the law is a bit ambiguous towards us. We'll be having this safe bush chair here. And I have some notes here. I do know my story, but I still feel anxious while starting to tell my story. But I hope that while we get started, I'll start to feel better. First of all, I'll start from the very beginning, from meeting my spouse. The first day I met him, the first day he told me that he'll start to take care of me and take care of my 3 daughters. I had 3 daughters by that time, and this surprised me a lot, because it was surprising for me. Did he really mean it, and so on? I wasn't sure we would meet again, but we kept meeting, and I started to pull him back that let's take it slowly and easily, let's learn to know each other. But then he said that he doesn't see any need for that. He's sure in himself, and that he's sure that I'm the woman that he has been looking for. It was like a fairy tale, love from first sight. And he seemed like a safe person to me because he was sharing a lot of details about himself in a very sincere way. And of course, I believed everything he said. One of the things he shared with me was his concern about having children. And he didn't have any children of his own yet. He said he was afraid he would turn into a father similar to his own father. He remembered clearly how their mother was lying on the floor, was bleeding, and he was behind the couch hiding with his sibling. And this was for me like a guarantee that this person will never become violent, he doesn't want it, and this will be safe. And from the beginning of the relationship, he was very attentive. He remembered all the details. We were having long phone calls. He was interested in how I was doing. He was giving me big flower bouquets. And he really left a wonderful impression of himself. Now, looking back, actually, the signs of violence were already there, but I didn't notice them then. And now you, while listening to this introductory description, saying all these details, I think this makes you already alert. This sounds like a dangerous relationship. Was I blind to these signs? Yes, I was.
Ja juba 2 aastat peale seda, kui ma siis mehega kohtusin esimest korda.
And 2 years after meeting my husband the first time, I booked an appointment with a psychiatrist, and my husband thought I would need to go there because I was doing very poorly. Things were not good with me. And I believed him because I tried to be good, do everything right and ideally, but things went wrong all the time. They were still doing things wrong. I wasn't able to be a proper woman. An ideal woman. We were having fights about pointless things, and of course I was always the one who was blamed. And I believed that I was to be blamed. And I understood that if the man held me, didn't allow me to move, pushed me, then it was my fault. I was irritating, pushing the buttons. Then at the psychiatrist, I found out I had depression, anxiety disorder, and that I had developed post-traumatic stress disorder recently. And with the psychiatrist, we couldn't find the reason for that. The psychiatrist asked me, which trauma have you had? And I couldn't think of an answer. I knew that I had lost my father when I was 10, but that was too far away. I hadn't had anything recent I could think of. And then I started to go to the psychiatrist all the time. And I described the violence that they had at home. But for some reason, the psychiatrist couldn't recognize the violence there. Now, a scene from the time when I had been living separately for a year and a half from this violent man. My 3 daughters had become adolescents by that time, and it happened that they spoke out and said that the stepfather had actually hurt them as well. There hadn't been many incidents, maybe once or twice for each daughter, but still there were this incident, so I decided to go to the police and complain about it. And it is often with children that they don't tell you at the beginning, but then later. And I remember it took me a lot of time to gather courage, pull myself together and go to the police. It was about a month after the daughters had told me that I did it. Because I remember that when I had been to the police myself, filing a complaint before the divorce, then this experience was rather intimidating. The policeman was very short, abrupt with me. It was midnight. I was interrupted all the time. And he was telling me, oh, that's enough, enough of these details. That this is sufficient, and so on. But in the end, I went to report on the violence about the daughters. I took one of the daughters with me so that she would be able to share the story, and the other stories would be shared later. The policeman heard my story and said that there's not much point in reporting and advised me to go back home. And I went back home. I felt terribly. I felt I will never go to ask for any help from authorities anymore. Because all this experience of asking for help had been difficult. So that's why it took me time to compose myself and ask for help. And then 7 months passed. Then I met Margo, and I told him my story, that I had been to the police and I had been sent away. And then he advised me to write a letter. There's a file you can fill in on the police webpage, so nobody will dismiss you. And then I did it. I wrote a letter of about 2 letters, and I was fast asked to come to the police. I was interviewed, daughters were interviewed, many witnesses were also asked to give their testimonies, and they compiled their material fast. It was sent to the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor said that he's very sorry that I had been dismissed earlier, but he just didn't understand it. And he also felt that he was sorry that one of these complaints had already timed out when the ex-husband had pushed a pen into the nose of my 7-year-old daughter, and blood had started to run. It's really difficult for me to understand why the policeman had just dismissed me and sent me away earlier. Oh, it makes my hands even shake. Now, moving on, I started to get help from my oldest daughter. It's that the children who have been living in this abusive environment, they have a lot of challenges. And my oldest daughter really needed help. I looked for help. I asked for it. We went to a psychiatrist, we went to the mental health center, where you can also get broader help for children. And they also advised me to go to a family therapist. I thought it's a good idea, and we went. I first went with my oldest daughter, and then the next time I went there with my 3 daughters. And after these 2 times, the family therapist thought that perhaps the father could also be involved now. And the third session took place with me, our 2 sons, our joint sons, and the father were all involved. I was afraid of this meeting. I thought it would be like a show from the father that I would see through, but that the therapist wouldn't perhaps understand it. I felt that I hadn't been with this ex-partner in the same room for a long time, so it was difficult. We had just met very briefly earlier.
I trusted the family therapist because she also confirmed me that she had worked with women who had experienced violence. She had led a group of victims of domestic violence, so I really trusted her. She found that we could meet again, so that it would be me, my former husband, and her. And of course, after the first meeting, when the boys were also there, I got a lot of calls after that, a lot of messages from my husband, and these weren't very nice messages. They were scary, threatening, belittling, shaming. And when I expressed my doubt regarding whether, a family therapist is a good idea, because I've heard that when there's domestic violence, you shouldn't go to the family therapist, then no. The social worker said that no, she's a professional, you can trust her. And there are 2 theories about it, that you shouldn't go to a therapist is one theory, but there's another one saying that you should go and you can get help. But I am not the theory. My children are not the theory. So when we had the second meeting, there were the therapist, me and my husband. Then after that, the children's lives were rearranged, and the man, my husband, didn't have to pay alimony to the children no longer. And the daughter, who was the reason of going there in the first place, she wasn't considered an issue anymore. We agreed that we would, review this new way of life of children, 1 week with me, 1 week with father. We would review it in a month's time. Then actually when I tried to contact the therapist in a couple of months, she told me that she didn't have any time for me anymore. She didn't have any time for an appointment. And I was left to deal with the constant readjustment that the children had to undergo, their psychological challenges, and of course also carry all the costs related to children. So was the therapist actually aware of what she was doing?
Nüüd üks väga väike pildike. Et laste suhtluskorra protsessis käis külas lastekaitsetöötaja.
We also had a child protection worker when we were discussing the communication procedure. And my child told the social worker how the father had punched her in the stomach, and the child protection worker just laughed, dismissed him, saying that, adults don't act like this. So we had a child protection worker who didn't believe a child. Now, going back in time, in the last years of our relationship, I couldn't go anywhere without my husband. I wasn't allowed to go alone anywhere. He always came with. I couldn't meet anyone face to face. I couldn't tell anyone how I was doing, and nobody asked me either. I was covered with bruises, and nobody asked me how I was doing. So was it really my choice? Was it my choice to stay with the abuser? And now a recent story. My youngest daughter underwent a very dramatic change in her appearance. So she cut down her long hair. Now she has a short hair, and she no longer wears this cute clothes that girls wear, but she's wearing XXL size boys' clothes. Other children are laughing at her at school, and she survived that. But also the teachers and the principal of this small school really hurt her, and she also used makeup to paint bruises in her face, and nobody asked her what was going on. Well, of course they did. Her class teacher did, but she did it in a very loud voice. She asked her, "What's going on with you? What are you doing? What are you up to?" And she locked the class door while they were having this conversation. After that, I couldn't get her to go to school anymore. How to speak to a child when her appearance is begging for help? Usually the abuser paints a very beautiful picture of himself because he has a completely deranged view of the world, a deranged perspective on himself and all the other people surrounding him. And it seems to me that the majority listens to the abuser and believes everything he says. So if we need to speak about these red flags, then this is the case. But we also need to learn how to recognize the one in need. They won't come and tell you everything in a clear manner. Mostly they are seeking help for their children, not themselves. And their first contact will be child protection services and different psychologists. We have many specialists who don't understand the kind of behavior that is displayed by a person living in a violent relationship. Children are rarely talked to. And even if they are being talked to, they are seldom believed. We can all help by being attentive, by being caring towards those who are starting to seek for help. And their voice might be very fragile. It might be only the eyes that are telling the story. Thank you, and now let's go to Jana. Hello. I will only tell you a couple of paragraphs from my life story. My life has been like a horror film at times, and I have been one of the main characters in this film. The book isn't finished yet, because the story that I'm going to tell is not over. On the first glance, everything is fine. I'm a normal woman. However, inside, I am just burnt out. I've been a victim for many years. I have felt how I've been re-victimized over and over again. And I feel that I'm just tired of all of it. I'm exhausted. My heart has been torn open. I'm standing here because I have become strong through this crisis. Many of us don't dare to fight for ourselves or our children because they don't have the strength. I am very grateful for the opportunity to share my story with you. My first extract from the story, from this book of my life, is entitled Deliveries. And I will read you some of them. I have received messages. You are cursed and you are dying. The angel of death has touched you and the end is near. A black angel is breathing towards you. I've also, my employers have received different libeling letters about me. Different proceedings of misdemeanor have been initiated against me, and also the Data Protection Agency has received complaints about me. So according to my local government, I am not a family member as a mother of my daughter. The next extract is entitled Simple Things. All complicated things start from simple things. However, if we don't pay attention to the simple things, they will increase and will get stuck there. They'll be so big in the end that we'll be afraid, then we'll have panic, and then we'll be unable to do anything at all. The same applies for different authorities. If there is one single child protection worker, can ruin everything. So they'll have no cooperation with others. I think it's human that we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And it's also human to admit mistakes, at least based on what we know. Unfortunately, this child protection specialist isn't able to do that, and she fails to see the big picture. There is injustice, and people can't read or legislation. The people who have lost themselves can't help others. They are afraid of responsibility, and hope that things will work out by themselves. Are we ready to face ourselves? Now, the extract that's the most difficult for me personally. This is entitled Failure. In my life, I have failed several times. And you know, so what? I learn from it. I go on. I remember very clearly the day, it was the 13th of May, 2018. On this day, my daughter could spend the day with me, or could spend a couple of days with me and my son. I was scared. I was law obedient. I followed the communication procedure. My daughter clearly told me that she didn't want to go back to her father. But I wasn't listening to my intuition. I wasn't listening to my daughter's wishes. My daughter told me that her legs were weak. When I told her that her father was waiting in a car, she paid no attention but went upstairs to play with dolls. So I packed her belongings and told her that she could stay with me and her brother soon enough. In the same month, I received the court verdict stating that when my daughter continues to live with her father, it's damaging to her health. But I didn't see her anymore. They escaped. Then they rewrote the court verdict. The communication procedure was set. But my daughter didn't come to me anymore. We have the paragraph chair or the legal chair here on the stage. Margo is sitting on it. When you look at it, you might feel, that it's beautiful. But actually, when you want to sit on it, it doesn't offer you any support. It collapses. This is what happened to me as well. I haven't been able to speak to my daughter nor meet her for more than 3 long years. Back then, I supported on the law the officials who haven't been able to help nor me or the daughter. Instead, they are hoping that things will work out by themselves. By now, it's been 7 years. I know that our time is up, but are you willing to continue to listen to me? This is how things are, both in life. So recently, a new chapter was added to my book. I couldn't believe it myself. Of course, we are hoping for some things to happen, and that really happened. And this chapter is entitled New Problems Once Again. I would now recite one of the many opinions by the child protection services I have received. For the sake of the child, it's not reasonable to have another assessment and investigation that would take years. But it makes sense to finish this argument right now and banning any new arguments. If needed, the mother should be taken away, the right of the mother to make health decisions about the child should be taken away. Child protection services require for the mother to step down, so they basically think that the child doesn't need a mother, and that the mother shouldn't make decisions regarding to the child, that the mother shouldn't communicate to the child. Why can't child protection services in our state protect the rights of the children? The child protection services pick a side. They don't protect children. As in every story, also I have a chapter called Solutions. So there's a silver lining in all this. All of us have to take responsibility. We have to take responsibility when we are officials. We have to take responsibility for our words, our actions, but also for the things that we have left undone. We need to admit our mistakes, however painful it might be. I stick to myself. I'm looking for ways to help my children. I'm seeking for solutions, and I'm still hoping that there are miracles out there, and this problem that we have here will be solved one day. My son is constantly asking about his sister. By now, my children have alienated from each other. Only recently I told my son a story about two wolves. Once upon a time there were two wolves. One of them was bad and the other one was good. I asked him, "What do you think? Which of them will win?" My son thought for a moment and then said, "The bad one. Yes, the bad one will win." Some moments passed and then he said, "But in the end, the good one will win." You know what? He's 10 years old. However, the society has taught him that the one who is bad and cruel will get his way. The society accepts the one who sabotage. Then I told my son, "The one you nourish will win. Please don't nourish the bad wolf, because your fear will grow. Please nourish the good one. Then you'll have hope that your sister will return, and everything will be okay one day." You know, he was so pleased. He was so happy. He promised to nourish the good wolf. He still has hope. And I hope, together with him, that one day a miracle will happen. I'll finish my book by a short epilogue.
Paljude lastevaidluste kohta eelkõige öeldakse, et need on eskaleerunud.
It has been said about many disputes over children that they have escalated. And in the end, everyone is tired. The parents are exhausted. The children are traumatized. And believe me, for many children, this is a trauma for life. And the state has spent many years of its own resources. It wouldn't happen if all of us would dare and face the truth. We won't solve anything if we are afraid. This is just escaping from a situation. An outcast will find their own strength, their own value, their own truth. Because they're the survivor for the outcasts with love. Thank you.
Aitäh, et te meid ära kannatasite.
Great, thank you. Great thanks to the speakers. There are questions. Perhaps the most important is the following, which also received the most likes. What would really help you? What could we do to help you? Believe it or not, but there's a lot that can help besides specialists. So great thanks.